Hunter here with CodeBushi. Today I'm going to show you how to use gatsby-image, which is a super cool image processing slash optimization tool that's provided by Gatsby for Gatsby static sites. When I first started using gatsby-image, it's pretty confusing, and then after a lot of trial and error I figured it out. I made a blog post about it, but decided to make a video. Anyways, let's start with a basic Gatsby site. I'm going to pick the Hello World starter just because it has like nothing in it. Alright, so let's install the Hello World starter. Assuming you have the Gatsby CLI installed, you can just go to the starter, copy this guy over here, paste it in, and hit install. And it'll run like all the build and stuff, all the npm packages, so you don't have to do any of that. It's pretty cool. The thing about this starter is it's like completely bare bones. So we're gonna start with nothing at all. And then we'll go through what plugins you actually need to get the Gatsby image going. So let's do ls. It looks like it's there. I'm going to go into the Hello World starter, and then let's fire up with Gatsby develop. And it should start it up on localhost 8000. And here it is. It's the Hello World starter. Alright, let's open this guy up in VS Code and take a look at what we're working with. So if we go look at the package.json, there is not much going on. It's got Gatsby React and React DOM. Alright. And then if we go into the pages, this is the index page, it's the Hello World. It's like as minimal as you can get. So, in order to do a Gatsby image, let's go look at their docs real quick. You can read more about it up here, but essentially you'll need not just the image plugin, you'll need the image and also the Gatsby transformer sharp and the plugin sharp plugins. So we'll need to install all three of those. Depending on what starter you use, they might already come with it, but you might as well just install it anyways. Install all three anyways, because it's not really gonna hurt. So let's install those. Gonna get out of that. So we'll do Gatsby image, and then we'll also do the transformer sharp and the plugin sharp. So let's install that. Take a closer look at what these are doing. So Gatsby image will resize your images and do all this cool stuff. And the image processing happens with these two plugins. These two plugins are actually behind the scenes when you do a Gatsby build. It's going to, say you have a really large image and you want to show it on like a mobile device. Well, Gatsby image will pull in the smaller image, but these will actually create the smaller version of your big image for you, so you don't have to make that yourself. And they also do a bunch of other stuff. So these two plugins do the image processing. Gatsby image does the image kind of serving. It will display the image after you run everything through the GraphQL. You will also need Gatsby source file system, which tells Gatsby where to look for your images. So let's see if those are installed. Alright, let's install this as well. Gatsby image source file system. So the source file system doesn't really have anything to do with images per se. It's just a way to tell Gatsby where data is coming from. In this case, you're saying data is coming from my file system, aka like my computer. You can do, Gatsby has like many different source plugins. They have like one for WordPress, one for like Contentful. So if you want your content coming from WordPress, you would use the WordPress one. The file system one just says like it's coming from my computer. Alright, so we got those installed. Let's open up my package.json. So we got those guys in here. And now we'll need to open up the Gatsby config and add some code in here, basically to activate those plugins. So we'll do one of these. I'm just going to copy and paste here. But we tell it to use these plugins. We don't have this manifest. I'm going to get rid of that. So we're going to say use the transformer sharp and the plugin sharp. And we don't have a rect helmet. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, so this is saying, alright, Gatsby file system, here are where my images live. They're going to live in my root directory /source/images. So right now we're in the root directory. If we go to /source, there's only pages, so we're going to make a new folder called images. Okay, so then in the images folder, we can add some images. Let me open this with Finder. And I'm going to put some images in there. Got one of a turtle, and one of Japan, masks that are cool. Okay, so once you have your images directory, make sure the file system is pointing to it. This way, when you run Gatsby develop, the GraphQL will know where to look for files and data, and in this case, your images. Okay, so we have all those installed. We're going to do Gatsby develop again and run it. And before we do anything in the code, I don't think I saved this. Let's save it and have to run it again. Every time you mess with the config, you should probably stop and restart the server. Okay, so how do we know if Gatsby is actually able to see these images via the GraphQL queries? Well, we can go to their GraphQL graphical interface and take a look at it there. This is what it looks like. I'm going to probably start with something that looks like this. You can clear it out. So if we click on the file, and then we'll go to the child image sharp area, and then there's this fixed and fluid. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but let's just go with fluid right now. And let's go with the base 64 trace SVG. Sure. And let's hit play and see if anything happens. Okay, cool. So this means we're able to get some data from our file system. And then per the Gatsby example, you can actually test out their query right here. So they do like a relative path. So let's try that. So if you come in here, there should be a relative path, little checkbox. Enter the file. Here it is. And it'll start filling things in for you. I don't really want the ID. So relative path equals. And what that means is the relative path is the path specified in here. So we don't need to include /src/images. Relative path means we're already in the images folder. So all we have to do is type in like japan.jpg. So japan.jpg, and hit play. So this is the information. Yeah, I'll get rid of this. This is the base64 information for that japan.jpg image. So we know this is working. Cool. Now, how do we get it onto our hello world page, which there's nothing here right now? We will go into our pages index. Alright. And I'm going to go into their docs and just copy some of this stuff from here. And then I'll explain what it's doing. Alright, so in order to make the GraphQL query, we need to import GraphQL from Gatsby. And then here's where the gatsby-image plugin actually comes into play. We'll import image from gatsby-image. Now we make the GraphQL query here. So we can basically just copy and paste, for the most part, what we did in the graphical playground area. So I'm just going to copy this top part and paste it into here and replace what they have. And they have the child image sharp. So now here's where you get to pick if it's a fixed or fluid image. Basically, for the most part, I find that I usually use the fluid image. That means you specify a max width. So it will look something like this. Fluid image has a max width of, let's say, like 1,000 pixels. So it will never be bigger than 1,000 pixels. But as you resize your screen, it will start choosing smaller images. Say if you're like a mobile device, it won't load the full 1,000 pixels. It will load maybe like a 500 pixel version of it that's generated by those transformer sharp plugins. Alright, and then this ... part is what's called like a GraphQL fragment. And the sad part is you can't really see those in here. So if I put the ... in here, it's not going to work. Let's try it out real quick. Oops. So let's do the fluid. It's going to give you like an error because I think they explain why that happens. It's like a limitation of GraphQL, but you can still kind of test it without this ... You can just put in like SVG or sizes or any of these you can pick and make sure this is working. If this is working, then the ... ones should also work. But then these are all the other fragments that are available. So if you want the fixed one, you would use fixed. If you want the fluid ones, you would use fluid. The fixed ones is basically, you know, like the length or the width and the height, and those are never going to change. So Gatsby will optimize those for like retina displays. But I find that I usually have fluid images because of like a responsive website. So for the most part, I use fluid. And if you want different effects, like a traced SVG effect, you can use this fragment. So it would just be like ... this traced SVG, for example. But let's just try to do the default one and see if it works. So we have this in here. Now with Gatsby, once you do the GraphQL in props, you automatically get a data in here. So this is kind of a shortcut for writing it. I'm going to write it the real way. just so it's a little more clear. So we return that, and then in here we get props. And I'm going to comment this out real quick on my console, log props, so we can see what's going on. Not this dot props, just props. Alright. So then we go into our local host. Let's do a little inspector here. Alright, so now we can take a look at what the props look like. And here under the data, you can see the file, and then the image sharp, and then fluid, which is what we set it as. And here's some image data that you don't really have to worry about, because the Gatsby image plugin will deal with this stuff for you. So we just want to make sure that we see the data in the props, which we do. Alright, cool. Now we can go back in here and uncomment this out. And we used fluid, so we want to change the fixed stuff to fluid. Alright, let's see if this works. Give it a save, and boom, there it is. The image is here, and if we give it a reload, you can see it gave that blur up effect. If we want to choose like a trace SVG, we can change this to the trace SVG example. Closed it. Let's see where that was at. Gatsby image. On the bottom, let's try the trace SVG fluid. You can see that it'll give it a little different effect. Give it an open. Alright, give it a save. And see how that gave it, I mean, it's hard to see, but gave it a little different effect than the standard blur up. So now, what if we have more than one image in our directory, which we do? We have the Japan, and then we also have this turtle one. What if we want both of those on the screen? An easy way to do that is you can kind of name these file queries. So right here you can put Japan, a colon, and now let's give this a save. It's gonna be a little broken, so let's see what the props looks like now. I'm just gonna do props.data so we don't get all that other stuff. Alright, so let's do a little inspector, and then we go into the props. Okay, so now it's Japan.childImageSharp. So we can do props.data.japan. And okay, so that still works. And now let's get that turtle in here. Let's copy this, give it a little paste, change the Japan's turtle, and turtle here. Save that. Alright, so now we have turtle right underneath Japan. So if you have a lot of images, it can be a little bit of a chore to get them all in there. I have a little shortcut up in my blog. I'll put the description. I'll put that link in the description so you can see like a shortcut way, so you'd have to copy paste every time. But yeah, this is how you use Gatsby image on a page level Gatsby component. If you want to use this on a non-page component, like if you have let's say components folder, and then in here you had a header, you want it to get the query here, you cannot use this. This is only for page level. So if you wanted to do it in a component, you have to use what's called a static Gatsby query. So let's do a quick static query. So everything else is basically the same, but instead of the query living outside, it would look like this. So this is a render prop. You can use this hook, which is pretty cool. Looks like it's a new thing. I recommend the hook because it's, you know, a little less confusing. So you would do one of these. And then let's import React from React. And const header. And then the hook. Let's look at their example. It would look like this. The query would look like this. And then this is the same data, so you can kind of just copy all this query stuff and put it into here. And then you can use this as normal. You'll import these guys in here. Let's see if this works. Let's just do the whole shebang real quick. Give this save. Now instead of this, alright, the images are gone. And import it. Import header from components header. And the header is probably up here. If it works, did not work. Let's check it out. Component is spelled wrong. Go up a directory. No, I did not export it. Default header. Okay, so now we've exported header, and so now since this is a static query, data is just here. It's not going to be passed in via props like this other method. It's not going to be this, so it's just going to be data. So we can remove the props parts down here. Give it a save, and there we go. Let's give it a refresh. Alright, so this is the header right above that. So that's how you would do it with a non-page component, just a regular component. You can use the static query and then the new hook, which is really cool. Alright, thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys found this useful. Leave me a comment in the description below if you'd like to see more stuff about Gatsby or React or whatever else. Thanks.